All right, welcome to episode 57 of the Next Report, where we talk about Unix and overlooked pop culture. Stephen Tompkins is joining me today on this nice little video hangout. Fall is almost over, or fall is almost here.
Summer's almost over.
Yeah.
Fall's on its way. That's why I have my winter.
Oh yeah. Weather's kind of, nice fall weather's kind of coming in, so um, with that in mind.
You could have said that winter's almost here.
Oh,
temperature.
Absolutely, but that means more people are going to be spending time indoors online. And last week we kind of started talking about the free flow of information, and one of the things that kind of inhibited it as a result of the actions of the Electronic Frontier Foundation, among other groups and organizations. Congress and the FCC were flooded with comments about concerns about slow lanes and everything else. So it's good that we're having that conversation and people are aware of what's going on. So, with that in mind,
it says that winter's
and now I'm echoing.
It's all right. It was me.
Oh, that's all right.
My web browser, since the Hangout went live, I had the Hangout in another tab, and I forgot about it. So you were hearing about a minute and a half delay what we were talking about, and then it was going on the podcast twice. So sorry about that, guys.
Hey, that's
fixed it.
That's all good. Anyway, there's more than one way of inhibiting access to information besides slowing down access. Some ISPs or some countries might decide we're not going to let people visit such and such website, or some schools may block certain websites as well, or certain vicinities like the Apple Store blocking access to the best page in the universe.
Mathematics.
And to kind of put things into perspective for this episode, yes, some of these tools can help you protect your privacy, but we're not emphasizing privacy on this one. Nor do these tools make you completely invincible. This is more regarding getting around censorship by governments, institutions, etc., etc. And one of those ways that we can get around censorship, and gonna give a hat tip to GrayCoder.com, because they have some very, very valuable information regarding a lot of this stuff. But the first thing I'd like to talk about is Tor, the Tor project. Have you ever used Tor?
I have not.
I kind of have, off and on, not very much. What it is called the Onion Router. It was started by the U.S. Navy, and for those who have been a long-time listener to this podcast, you may have heard us me talking about it with other co-hosts in a past episode. But today it's coming from a different perspective of how do I get access to a site that is, well, not being allowed to be accessed to, or something like that. Tor is one way to do that. What Tor does is people can set up their systems to act as a Tor relay. When you access the Tor network, you are randomly routed through various points of access, so that, in theory, you are very, very untraceable. And you can actually get the browser bundle from torproject.org. Now, a couple of tidbits of caution. One, according to Inquisitor.com, there have been issues with certain ISPs like Comcast telling people, if you use Tor, we're going to suspend your service. ISPs can tell if you're using Tor if that's all you're using. And the website, as well as other projects that utilize Tor, will tell you up front that alone, if you're wanting to get around censorship, an ISP can tell if you're using it. And they won't be able to tell which sites you're visiting with Tor, but they'll be able to know if you're using the service, unless, as we'll discuss later, you're using a VPN to access. You're accessing a VPN and then using Tor. So, one of the ways to, there's a couple of ways. We already discussed one of them is using a browser bundle. There's also a couple of there's a live system called Tails that you can put on a thumb drive, though you might be cautious about that too, considering the whole USB vulnerability that has been discovered as of late. Do you know anything about that?
I have not heard anything about it, honestly, but I can see why that technology would be very vulnerable, because the USB platform, or Universal Serial Bus, it's made to be universal, so that way you can connect to, like, I could use my desktop here, or if my tablet had an actual USB port, I could use it, or I can go to another computer, completely different computer, use it. It's on TVs, it's on all kinds of devices. So it's widespread and not very secure because of that reason. It's meant to be widespread and easy to use.
Because one of the big issues is firmware can be overridden on the device to act in a way that the device may not have been initially designed for. So that could entail all kinds of issues. So that could be another issue to run into. But you can also put this thing on a live optical media, DVD, CD, and how it works is you pop it in. And by the way, if you run this in a virtual machine, the live system will be able to tell you, you're using a virtual machine. This is not very secure. And they have all kinds of warnings and everything else about that. And what'll happen is it'll pop up this live desktop. It'll automatically use Fidelia to connect to Tor. There's even a theming option to where it'll look as close to Windows as possible in case somebody's looking over your shoulder. All kinds of pretty cool stuff. And there are live systems out there that also use Tor, and you can get around censorship, around that sort of thing. And I know I listed other tools later on in our little outline, but I think I'll go ahead and talk about it now because and of course my system's being slow, but there's also another utility called the Pirate Browser, which is mainly available for Windows users. It's brought to you by the jolly folks at the Pirate Bay, and it's basically a portable Firefox with Foxy Proxy add-on and Fidelia bundled all together. And oh, come on. There we go. And they even tell you it doesn't protect your privacy. And to use a VPN like privacy.io, and as we'll discover later on, one of the inhibiting factors of those is, it could be cost. So that's another thing that you can avoid. That's another way to get around censorship. And graycoder.com also lists a bunch of anonymous Linux distributions as well. So that's another cool thing. And you not only can you access an entire network on Tor, you can actually set up a hidden service on Tor. This is how the Silk Road and other places popped up. They were a hidden Tor service. Hence the apprehension by maybe people from Comcast and other service providers, because it's been assumed that if you're using Tor, you must be doing something wrong or illegal and everything else. But yeah, so what are your thoughts on Tor?
I personally, I like the option to have another browser. Like, I mean, I guess you can use this plugin with like the Pirate browser, which is the same thing as the Tor browser, except it looks just like Firefox. So it's literally just the Vidalia plugin built into Firefox. And since they're both open source projects, it makes sense that that it just works together so easily. But I honestly like the idea of having that as a service available to people who are going to be having more trouble using something like a VPN or using something that's less secure like a proxy or any other means of jumping around hoops and everything else to not let people know what you're looking at, what you're trying to do. Especially when you're like in a situation where you need to connect to a server and you need to do some work. Like if you work for a big name company and you're doing something inside, like maybe editing an Excel file, and you need to be able to get access to that network because it's stored on that network and you can't get to it any other way other than using a VPN or something like that. Most corporations allow you to use a VPN, and they'll give you the information that you need for that, so you don't have to set anything up. You literally just type it in and go. But sometimes you won't have that convenience. So this Tor project allows you to connect to other places by hopping through different places on their network, and basically you won't be able to have your IP address tracked that way because it's been hopping through multiple spots, and your information is encrypted. So it's extremely and free.
Now there are certain it's not a guaranteed protection of privacy, because if a vulnerability is discovered in the browser itself, or in the case of Silk Road where the captcha they used was problematic, they can discover where a particular hidden service is. And I know this sounds unrelated, but bringing up Stacy lets I'm doing this for a good reason. She used the Silk Road to obtain, soft drugs and things like that, and started selling them. Tor does not protect you from the real world either. So if you get caught, because all it took was an informant to basically say, hey, to help bust somebody, once certain illicit things enter the real world, that's when you become more and more vulnerable. So accessing certain information online, getting around censorship, Tor is an absolute excellent tool for doing that. If you have a country that frowns upon this, or an ISP that especially frowns upon this, then then bundling it up with a VPN would probably be your best bet. And of course, sometimes there's a free VPN service, or even a free proxy service. HideMyAss.com has a free kind of online proxy service, though they tell you the limits of that. It's in the web browser only, and it's not. And there is some encryption, but it's not as strong as it could be with their VPN service. Other limitations of free products include limits of speed, platform support. So if you're using a Linux-based operating system, you may not have configuration options that are available. ProXPN, for example, has free accounts, but if you want OpenVPN support, you have to have a premium account in order to be able to do that. So that's the big thing, is if you don't want your ISP to get mad at you, then you might be a little concerned about privacy to a point. But the idea is this stuff is not going to make you invincible. Don't be stupid. So what's the difference between a proxy and a VPN? I know we kind of sort of discussed it earlier, but
I mentioned it a little bit. But basically, a proxy server doesn't require that you have any traffic encrypted. A VPN, if you use a VPN service over a proxy, it's going to be encrypted always, no matter what. That's the primary difference. And then, generally speaking, proxies you can use through HTTP through your web browser, and 90% of the websites that will let you, like, for example, the one that you mentioned earlier, Hide My Ass. You can use that one. I've used them in the past for our school block Facebook. So if I wanted to go browse on Facebook, I'd have to use that website to get to it. And then they slowly started blocking the ones we were using. But so, like, literally, if you're just trying to get on Facebook or something, a proxy is just going to be good enough for you. Like, if you just want to block some of the make it harder for the person trying to find out what you're doing. Like, if they're literally just trying to find out something that you put on Facebook, you're probably not that worried about it in the first place, because it's just Facebook.
Right.
You should watch what you say on Facebook in general. But, I mean, if you're doing something important for, like, your job or whatever, then you should use a VPN.
And PC World does have an excellent how-to on setting one up, and it does require time and know-how. But if you do that, and you combine Tor with that, yes, your browsing experience will slow down with Tor because you're bouncing around random relays. You combine it with a VPN, the ISP or service provider you're using is not going to be able to tell what you're doing if you're using a VPN and then using Tor at the same through the VPN. All they're going to be able to tell is that you're connecting to some network somewhere, and that's it. And they can't really determine what you're doing because of the encryption involved.
One other difference that I forgot to mention earlier that I was reading in this article, I'm sure Thomas can share the link on this when we're done, but one other big difference between a proxy and a VPN is proxy servers are transparent, according to this article, and it's true, basically because of this specific reason. When the packets are sent across the network, and when you are using a proxy service over a VPN service, what happens is that they'll grab your IP address. There's an IP address of the remote client that you're trying to access. Like if it's a Facebook or another website or whatever, there's that IP address, and then the one that you're using to actually access to that. which is the intermediary device, the server or the web proxy. And each of those are stored into a variable. In programming languages, there are variables that store information. It can be a number, a group of characters, or a sentence, stuff like that. And in this case, it's your IP addresses that are being stored in these specific variables, and those are able to be viewed by your ISP and other things, so they can tell that you're using a proxy server over something else, and it'll give them the IP addresses. So it's not hiding you completely. It's mimicking the fact that you're on a different computer or something.
Oh yeah. So a proxy is great if all you want to do is, say, view stuff on the BBC show that's restricted to, say, people who are across the pond. But it's not so great if you're doing other things that, you're wherever you're at, service provider, whether it is a private ISP or your place of work, may find objectionable. Because like some people may want to view new Doctor Who episodes that aren't available here in the United States yet, and they may use a proxy to be able to go onto the BBC's website and go, BAM! But place of work can tell, or law enforcement can trace more specifically where you're at. Tor takes more work but can be traceable, which is why the stuff doesn't make you invincible, and you need to be careful when doing this. But there's also other places that you can go. Private Tunnel has pricing plans, and so does CyberGhost VPN. And often enough, all you have to do is go through your favorite search engine and look up VPNs and compare prices and what have you. Just remember, if you're doing a free service, you're going to be running into certain things like you're going to be throttled maybe at 300 kilobits per second, depending on who you're with. BitTorrent traffic may not be allowed at all, unless you upgrade to a premium, some sort of premium paid package, and some of them may have to, by law, disclose information to law enforcement. So you may want to choose one that has places in the Netherlands that you can plug into, so to speak, if you're concerned with the DMCA, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. Not that I'm encouraging anybody to break copyrights or anything like that, but there are those who have been overzealous in terms of reporting so-called infringement when it was actually fair use. So there's that to take into consideration. Do any of these things intrigue you at all that you might want to try?
I looked at the private tunnel, honestly, and the pricing is actually not that bad for a service that they're offering. So it would not be a bad choice for you, especially because they have also a free option available for you if you're just going to be transferring small amounts of data, and your workplace doesn't offer this for you. It's very interesting. It might be something that I actually will have to use in the future too, but that's mostly because of the career path I've chosen.
Right, and there's plenty of tools, and we'd like to know which tools you use to get around censorship. Are you in China and need to access Facebook? Are you in a school that is overzealous in terms of restricting your viewing habits, even though you're paying these people salaries in the end. What do you use? Just feel free to comment in the video below. Feel free to message us on Google Plus, on Facebook, and everywhere else in between. Just let us know, because we actually want to know what you personally use. All kinds of people and groups recommend all sorts of things out there, but they have their strengths, weaknesses, limitations, such as being based in the U.S. Therefore, they may have to comply with certain requests, especially since there was that story that came out where Yahoo was threatened with six-figure fines daily if they didn't comply with the NSA. There's that to consider. Which tools do you use to protect your privacy? I actually forgot to mention one of the items in question. This one you definitely would find interesting. It's something called Whonix, where it creates a virtual network adapter through virtual machine technology, and then the separate component is a virtual machine desktop that connects through the virtual routing appliance that connects to Tor by default.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, that's another way of doing that. Although the download would be immensely huge, I'd imagine. But that's another way of doing that whole tidbit too. So what do you think about Tor? Maybe you think about setting up a hidden service?
I'm not sure I have for a hidden service at the moment. Maybe sometime in the near future, if I decide to create a web server to run my own website, I might do that. But for now, I'm still using free hosting options.
Right.
Limited at the moment, but I may do that in the future, and I might have to, depending on where I work and what I'm doing. So it's going to be one of the options I'll have to definitely weigh. So.
Oh, absolutely. Maybe try to set up a secret forum just for fun. Just make sure the CAPTCHA doesn't leak any information.
True.
Because that's how the individual behind the Silk Road eventually was found, and now, all legal controversy aside, that's how he was found, was through some vulnerability in the CAPTCHA that was used. And of course now about more gray area markets have popped up in its place, so there you go. I think that just about wraps it up. It's more of a short episode today, but
it is a little bit. But we could probably talk about some ideas of what we have for future episodes. Like, for example, what I was discussing with you earlier. In a previous episode, we talked about the Xbox One and the PS4 and the differences in hardware and software among the two. And we threw in the Wii U for the mix just for the sake of argument and having Nintendo in the mix, even though you can't really compare it to the other two systems because the hardware is drastically different.
Oh.
But either way, I mentioned that I wanted to get a PS4 and that maybe someday I'd like to do a review of it. Well, I have a PS4 on layaway currently, and I'm going to pay it off within a few months. So I'll have that and maybe a few games to review as well, and maybe we can have a new segment on the show. I'd like to know what your guys' ideas are on that. If you'd like to see that, if you'd like to see me review some games, maybe a Let's Play series, like I'm sure you've seen that on YouTube, of all kinds of different games. And I already have in mind a few games that I'll buy. So let me know. Let us know what you think, if that's something you'd be interested in, or if you see other game systems or if you'd like to hear gaming news in general, like for example, I can tell you something that happened just a couple of days ago. If you don't know, if you guys play Minecraft, or if you know what Minecraft is, it's a really addictive game. It's horrible. It's horribly addictive. But you can create stuff, build stuff, fight, whatever, all kinds of other stuff. A lot of people that are interested in computer science, like a lot of the people in my computer science department at school, almost everybody plays it. So it's kind of just a thing there. But anyway, Microsoft recently just bought Mojang for a $2.5 billion deal. So that might be something we could talk about in the future. Give us feedback, let us know what you think, what your opinion is on that, and then we might discuss it.
I would think it's like telling crack addicts, okay, we're not going to give you crack anymore. Here's Tylenol instead.
We'll give you some caffeine or some. We'll slowly let you down. We're going to start you off with some Vicodin. Vicodin that's not freely readable, but it's prescription drug. You probably have enough pain from all the withdrawal of not having your crack. So here, we'll give you this. Then we're going to slowly dip you down to caffeine, and then we're going to break you away from the caffeine and give you something a little more healthy.
Oh,
I'm worried that's probably what will happen, honestly. But only the future can tell. Only time will tell.
Well, and Minecraft has been hugely successful, and now people may be worried about it. And there were some people who were also worried about Skype when it was purchased by Microsoft, and surprisingly, Microsoft kept Skype as a separate business entity.
It was probably a smart move on their part, and I'm hoping, honestly, that they do the same with Minecraft. For those of you that don't know, Minecraft is actually written in Java, so by default, it is cross-platform. It'll run on any system that can run Java. So, like my tablet here, it's Windows 8. It's a Windows 8.1 Dell Venue 8 Pro.
Right.
It can run Minecraft, no problem. I can run it on Linux, on my Linux laptop that I have in my backpack. I can run it on the Windows side of this desktop I'm using, and also on the Linux side that I have. You can run it on a lot of devices, and it's also available on the Xbox 360, the PS3, and soon to be available on the PS4. I don't know about the Xbox One. I think it's already released, either that or it's being developed. But who's to know what's going to happen in the future for what game systems it'll be available on. But since it's already so big and so wide, I'm thinking that if Microsoft does anything with it, they're only going to enhance it. At least I hope. That's my hope anyway.
One can hope. It's kind of hard to say no to that much money. I'll say that. And there's been this whole business of mergers and acquisitions as of late. Attachmate, trying to remember which company Attachmate is merging with. Attachmate is the one that bought SUSE from Novell.
Micro Focus.
Yep.
Was the one that bought Attachmate.
Yeah, there's going to be a $1.2 billion merger. According to the Muck, there's been a response, an official response that it'll still be, business as usual, at least with OpenSUSE and SUSE itself. So that the merger may be a good thing. There's been some mergers as of late and buyouts and what have you. So hopefully all these things turn out for the best. It can most certainly disrupt a lot of things. I can guarantee you that for a while, but I think that just about wraps it up for today. I think we need to make this a 3-part series, though. Because, like, what topic related to information access should we discuss next?
I'm not, honestly, I don't know.
Or maybe we can focus on some privacy-related stuff.
We could.
And maybe organizations like the Electronic Frontier Foundation, 2600 Magazine, some of the tools that we didn't necessarily mention, such as the Guardian Project, Telegram.org. Among other things. It just feels like there's something missing from the discussion. I can't quite put my finger on it. Because you can.
We could talk about the interaction of all these technologies that we've been discussing in the past couple episodes, and the impact that they've had on the ISPs, and how the ISPs have been responding to these technologies, BitTorrent, and other peer-to-peer services, and everything else that we've talked about in previous episodes, and the last couple episodes in particular. And I've had a bad experience with my ISP because of using BitTorrent services. So we could probably expand on that.
And Telegram is this I guess messaging app that's actually available cross-platform. They talk about it being private, cloud-based, fast, distributed, open, free, and all that good stuff. Might be something to take a look at too. And I think they have an entire protocol set up too. Which is actually fantastic. Their mobile protocol. So it's definitely a good thing to be done. Because I'll just grab this camera and kind of. Oh, I can't move it really well. But I'll go ahead and just kind of do this. Telegram. Well, it's going to show it backwards, I guess.
Is that your second system, Thomas?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah. That's the monitor.
I can share my screen.
Oh, yeah. Because I try sharing the screen on this one, except what would happen is that this system only has like 2 gigabytes of RAM, and when really I need to be.
Well, I don't have that phone.
Oh. Yeah, Telegram.
Okay.
Oh. But yeah, there we go. Telegram right there.
So basically, this is what it looks like. They've got. Okay, so they've got the app for almost all of your devices that you can think of. There's a mobile app for if you've got a Chromebook, and then they've also got for Windows, Mac, and Linux, and then Mac OS X. I guess they were considering Mac as the old school Mac, and of course it would be cloud-based based on their web version, but it's private, it's fast, distributed, open source. Free. So if you wanted to look at their API, they've got their API up here. And I won't get into the details. I would be interested to see what it's written in, though. I'm assuming it's probably some sort of JavaScript related. I don't think it says.
It's pretty cool, though.
I do think it's probably a combination of jQuery, among other things. jQuery is very, very, very powerful, so it's it's pretty good. Anyway, it's definitely interesting.
So talking about some of the impact, some stuff you can use to interact with people to kind of get around, to in a sense get around other people's attempt to put limitations on you and all of that. And I think next episode we've got pretty much worked out, and it sounds like it's going to get very, very interesting from there. So I think that just about maybe wraps it up. So 57 in the bag, so 3 more and we'll get to episode 60.
Another mile marker.
Well, until next time, entertain yourself, educate yourself, empower yourself. I'm Thomas.
And I'm Stephen Tompkins.
So we'll see you next week.
See you guys later.